How can you not just love this place? It is just so beautiful. Sorry, am I in your way?
Yeah, just make sure it's clear. Which way? Straight? Come on, you. Well, they're not, but the reason why he's going. Hello.
So you make these?
Yeah, I make most of everything. Like, not I wouldn't make these in there, and then everything else is vintage. Vintage books. Yeah.
I like this. Yeah. A good day's a good day.
Exactly. You enjoying yourself today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Good morning. Man, everything looks so good.
Very good.
My God, that's a huge egg. Is that a goose egg?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't want in the box.
Do they cook up just like normal eggs?
Yes, they take longer to cook.
I imagine they would.
Yeah. It's 9 of them.
You know.
Yeah, there's some sort of, I think there's the long way.
haven't really. No, I know that there was a great deal of prisoners kept here during the War of Independence and such. Obviously through 1919 to 1922, right, and later.
Yeah, there was some sort. I don't know. Was it a breakout or was there something else?
No, there was a breakout. Right, there was two prisoners escaped during the War of Independence.
Yeah, but I don't know whether this is thing with. Unfortunately, yeah.
We'll have to do a bit of digging anyway. So you're all very welcome here to King House in Boyle. My name is Tom, that's Jacinta behind the desk. If you have any questions throughout your I suppose, visit here, we'll try and answer them. We're not complete encyclopedias, but we'll give it a fair shot. So yeah, the house you're stood in now was built throughout the 1720s for the King family. There's no, I suppose, direct connection with the royalty of England to the house itself. A lot of people to come here, expecting the likes of a grandeur of a royal palace or something along that lines. But I had to let them down, gently, that no such thing exists in County Roscommon. But yeah, the King family was their surname, more or less. So they would have come to the area in the early 1600s as planters or colonisers. They, I suppose, came here to Ireland originally as military men. So Sir John King was the original family member to come over from North Yorkshire in England. He was a muster general in the armies of Queen Elizabeth I. So he would have fought in the Irish Wars of the 1580s and then the 9 Years' War of the 1590s. A very turbulent period in Irish history. But for his service anyway, he was granted all 4,000 and a bit acres here in Boyle. Mainly centralised, I suppose, the central hub of which was the Abbey here in town, which obviously didn't exist at the time either. It was just, I suppose, the area around the Abbey. Monash na Boolie, which is the Irish name for Boyle, specifically relates to the area around the Abbey. It used to relate to any, I suppose, urban area you could say. They had a small Jacobean-style manor house below the grounds of the Abbey. After they had more or less converted it to a military fortification, obviously they had to consolidate their land against the local, I suppose, MacDermott clan who had been dispossessed during that period of time. So they would have had a small Jacobean manor house there anyway. That is said to have been destroyed by fire at some point in history, which is a common trope with the King family in the Boyle area. Of the 6th grade house, you might say, the King's built in the Boyle area, all 6 of which had a fire at some point, 4 of which were completely destroyed by fire. So, it's rather quite unfortunate, this was a series of events. Some say it was a local curse, a curse the local MacDermott clan put on them for stealing their land. But if you go back and look in history, the MacDermotts were plagued with fire as well. So it's just a risk of life back then, you could say. One of the tour guides here, another Thomas, very popular name, it was always referred to the third Indiana Jones film, where Sean Connery tries to burn through his wrist restraints and ends up setting the whole manor house ablaze in a matter of seconds. It was a very real threat back in the day, you might say. It's not usually magic, it was a very, I suppose, real fact of life. But yeah, so the house you're stood in now stands on the site of a previous manor house too, which also burnt down. But 1720 rolls around and Sir Henry King, great-grandson of Sir John, decides to construct this, I suppose, lavish residence for himself and his family. So started in 1720, finished in 1730, it took 10 years to build, mainly for the fact that there's so many vaulted ceilings in the whole house. So they're found throughout the building, which is rather quite strange for the time period. Usually they were just reserved for basement level, where the servants would have I suppose more or less lived and worked in the kitchens and storerooms and such. It's very, very unusual to have them throughout the building. That's why it took 10 years to build. Obviously the small red brick behind that, very costly to manufacture, transport and build with. So it was more or less a statement of wealth for the Kings. But it also had a very functional role as a fire break. So going back to the family history of fires and house fires, if a fire broke out on this floor, it wouldn't travel up the building simply because the brick would stop it. So only the floor on which the fire broke out on would be affected, which I suppose rather quite a smart move on behalf of Sir Henry, who was a rather quite smart man. One of the first fire prevention methods installed in the house in Ireland, you might say. So the house, I suppose, in general is built in the Palladian style of architecture, which is a neoclassical style, originating in northern Italy in the Renaissance with Andrea Palladio. It would have been a very world-renowned architectural style. The whole point of that type of architecture is to let as much light as possible to the home. That design of architecture is said to have been introduced to Sir Henry by his wife Isabella King, who was from Powerscourt over in County Wicklow. So she would have been, I suppose, more in tune with the fashion trends of Europe at the time, and she would have introduced him to that, obviously being I suppose, closer to the international hub that was Dublin, and I suppose still is Dublin, you might say. But yeah, so it's one of the first Canadian style houses in the country. So there's a few, I suppose, kinks that have yet to be ironed out in terms of its design, in terms of the different houses. I think there was roughly 270 houses built in that style of architecture, Canadian classical style in the country. So I suppose there's a great deal of, I suppose, malleability in terms of experimentation with that design of architecture in the country itself. Very strange that they installed it in the west of Ireland. Obviously, when your house is designed to let in as much light as possible, you first need natural sunlight, which we don't get too often here in the west of Ireland. So I suppose it was still Isabel's way of making this house a home. But yeah, you could always say that the house itself is an amalgamation of the two's architectural preferences, which is quite a nice, fact to know. But go back to the fires in limestone. It's one of those architectural features, it's commonplace in Irish state homes, that was made to sound or look more expensive than it actually was. The best example I know of is Lisdale House in County Sligo. When you walk into the main, central room there, the grand ballroom, there's fantastic Greek and Egyptian style marble looking columns on either side of the room, but you go over and knock on them, they're hollow. Completely, I suppose, fake. And no matter where you are in the country, no matter what time period, you'll get something like that. Cutting corners but maintaining the grandeur, you could say. But yeah, these two must be there. The 34 of these fireplaces are original, including this one. This one was actually found in multiple pieces below the basement when the house was being restored. So if you look closely, you'll notice little cracks and fissures throughout the stone. That's where it was broken. So it was very kindly pieced back together by a local stonemason when the house was being restored. The only replica fireplace in the house is the one down far in the long gallery here. It's a carbon copy of what was there, and what was there still does exist. But the Guinness family came along at some point in history and says we have that and took away from their castle in Leeds in County Kildare. So that's where that still is. They were very reluctant to give it back for the restoration of the house in the late 80s and early 90s. So we had to get one rebuilt. But yeah, one of the original features to point out to you now in the long gallery, the floor you're stood on. That was put in the 1720s, of course. That more than likely would be locally sourced sandstone rather than some fancy import from across the country. We're in the Cajun and Moigara formations of sedimentary rock here in Boyle, so they would have had a readily available supply of very, I suppose, easy to work with and non-lasting stone. Obviously, you're not going to splash it out in something you're going to walk across all day. But when the house was being restored, anyway, every single stone tile you see there was picked up, numbered, cleaned, polished, and put back down in its original spot. They say it was Ireland's largest jigsaw puzzle, because it's the longest long gallery of any Canadian style house in the country, just over 32 metres long. I'm not too sure what that is in feet. I'll have to do the conversion now again for you. But yeah. And the last original feature I'll point out to you before I bring you into the dining room is the front door you walk through. That's nearly 300 years old at this stage. Remarkable that it's lasted long. Obviously, Irish oak construction. The worse the climate a tree grows up in, the denser the timber is, the more weather resistant it is. That's why Irish oak is well renowned for its, I suppose, weather and abilities. That's why when the British came along, they built the navies out of Irish oaks. And similarly, the American navy was built out of the oaks of the swamps and bayous of Louisiana and all that. I suppose very harsh climate for trees to grow up in. So yeah, world renowned building material, I'd say. So if you'd like to follow me, I'll bring you to the dining room now. Some very interesting items on the set menu. We get one of our 1950s, and a lot of original furniture would be lost or time and sold on. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that the Kings weren't here for 49 years. Very short period of time, one would say. But yeah, one of the reasons, I suppose the main reason why they moved out is that the town of Boyle started to go around them. Going back to the fact that, there was no town in the house which we built, state and home. And that is the one I'm sure you've seen on the floor below me. And that was rocky. It was very much the cherry on top of the King family construction history in Boyle area. It was a John Nash design. John Nash was the go-to architect at the time. He worked on multiple state homes, Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. He also, I suppose, worked on multiple royal sites, such as Buckingham Palace. But you think with John Nash's prowess and I suppose the landlord at the time, which was Norton, that man there in the red jacket, Viscount Norton, and Lord Norton was found for years. You think the two of them would get on, they didn't. They despised each other. They got on like cats and dogs. They actually ended up in court in regards to payments for the design of the house. So obviously Nash, being an architect, was wanting a lot more money than Norton was willing to part with. So Norton refused to pay him. Nash took him to court, but only got half what he was asking for. So I suppose Norton now is angry in regards to that one. But I suppose Norton's legacy in the house, I suppose Norton was very, I suppose, interesting figure, I would say. You know, he was the landlord during the famine. He was seen as one of the more favorite landlords, not to have half rents and such. But I suppose he's best well known for his multiple court cases. And he was up in both famous, which was one in regards to a Jew he fought in the 1790s with a man called Henry Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald.
Look at the weapons up there, they would have had.
Just sit down with her. I don't think if you can do it. I'm sorry. When I find pictures, it's not supposed to be that queen. It's supposed to be. I don't know. It looks so, I'm sorry. Ikaw send a picture na.
You see the weapons up there? Nasty bit of work that is. See the repaired some of the board a little bit there.
Go up first.
Getting Island. It's up over there. What's that one there? This was like a nice chicken for a long time. Brian Corn. Tom Derrick, sure I knew him. Oh, he's dead now. I'm from the family.
Rapunzel. Yeah, Rapunzel, yeah. Maybe that's where the Rapunzel.
Maybe.
I'll take it.
Die Melancholia and it was
Yes.
she was dying of grief.
Sweet.
No, I understood it.
Oysters.
No, it's not. Understood. We're talking about it. Yeah, there's some stuff in the rescue.
Just the fire.
Yes, yeah. I was only, it was when it was September. Yeah, just over a year, I was just over a year old. Apparently he was good, he was, well, most people can go on there, there's only people that work for him went on there, but he was apparently a reasonable employer.
In 1793, John de Burgh was commissioned by the King of England to raise a new regiment in 1840. His sergeants traveling the length and breadth of Connaught, accompanied by drummers to attract attention and stir men's hearts. This is the story of how these young men, many recruited from the farthest corners of the west of Ireland, became one of the most formidable fighting forces of their time. 1840. His sergeants traveling the length and breadth of Connaught, accompanied by drummers to attract attention and stir men's hearts. This is the story of how these young men, many recruited from the farthest corners of the west of Ireland, became one of the most formidable fighting forces of their time. Once formed, the Connaught Rangers travelled the world and in time were drafted to fight the French forces in the Peninsular Wars, forging their name in legendary battles at Ciudad Rodrigo, Badajoz, and Salamanca in 1812, when Napoleon's dreams of global empire began to crumble. It was at Salamanca where they captured the iconic Jingle Johnny from a French regiment. Originally known as a Turkish crescent, this ceremonial instrument had itself been captured by the French during the Ottoman Wars, and it became a treasured possession, symbolic of the Rangers' bravery and self-sacrifice. The following years saw numerous postings and engagements, including the Boer War, the Battle of Colenso, and Crimea, where a shocking number of troops lost their lives, not to fighting, but to poor command decisions, resulting in lack of supplies, disease, and hypothermia. They were also part of many major engagements during World War I, including the retreat from Mons, the Battle of the Somme, Guillemot, and the final Allied offensive in 1918 that turned the tide of the war. Those Rangers who paid the ultimate price lie in 22 different countries around the world. Their story is now yours to discover.
The King House.
You know, not doing
Yeah,
what is it? Are you filming you?
yeah.
Hi Marty, hi Kelly. Just your friend Sam has asked me to do a little, I suppose, introduction for you or something along that lines, just to demonstrate my accent. So, I suppose I work here in King House here in Boyle. I suppose you'll hear all about it when your friends get home. He's not behind the camera excited to you right there. But I suppose. I'd be lucky enough to there, you know, just from County Sligo over yonder, so I have a very, I suppose, unique accent, you might say, the Monastradian accent that you call it.
Do you speak Gaelic as well?
Not a lot.
I don't speak, so
I suppose
all I know
that
is Sláinte.
yeah, that would
Yeah.
that would be restricted to certain Gaelic areas of the country. So, but I suppose, yeah, it's just a short out video for of a demonstration of the accent purposes. So. I suppose I hope to see you here in the future. We'd love to have you here in King House in Boyle. So, we've over 300 years of history here, spanning from Gaelic Ireland right up into the modern day. So, it'd be lovely to have you. So,
Thank you.
no problem at all.